Alright guys, so we are talking about animation, and as you can see we're going to be dealing with moving our animation in 3 dimensions. So more so than going through with our previous talks of just having a ball bounce, then we want that ball to bounce kind of in multiple dimensions. You can see really where it comes from is the idea of moving the ball in this case, 1 point perspective. It's going to get a little bit bigger. I'm thinking about the timing of those arcs just like we did in our last project. So as we're going along here, think about if you've had a background at all with that 1 point perspective, and that's how you kind of show the interior of a hallway or the interior of a room. We've got our vanishing point, and everything kind of goes back to that point, and then you've got your horizon line as well. And that's kind of how you end up with this kind of vanishing point, right? Things kind of get smaller as they get away from you. So if we subtract everything, we just have this kind of grid, then what we really kind of end up with is everything kind of shrinking. Right? So all I did was I pulled an image that you can actually have as well. I have it on our classrooms page. But I've got this image here, and you can actually go ahead and you just add that image into your picture, right? And that'll allow you to then have this kind of depth that makes it look like your ball is bouncing towards or away from us, right? So go ahead and hit this little plus here. Here, I'll show you. All right, so to get your picture, to kind of pull your picture and do File, Import Images, and then browse, obviously, and that way mine's in my downloads here. So you can find your image and just hit open there, and in this case it's going to import it automatically as a new layer. So I'm going to kind of change my name here. All right, so there you go. Okay, so background, one good, and hit OK. So there's my picture imported, ready to go, and you'll see how you get a new little layer down in your timeline down here. So there's that is. Okay, hit the little eyeball, and then just like in Photoshop or something else, it disappears. And notice how that picture just spans the entire length of your timeline, just kind of automatically default. I hit this little plus here, and then I'm going to go through and add a new drawing layer. Very easy. I can also do Command R there. So I'm going to go ahead and name it. In this case here, I'm going to go ahead and add my path. My path, I'm going to go ahead and basically draw out. It's going to be junky, but I'm going to make one little keyframe here, and I'm going to actually draw out the path that I want my ball to follow on. By almost kind of figuring out where I want my animation to be ahead of time, it's going to make actually animating way easier. So I'm going to make this ball kind of bounce away from me. It starts off really high and goes a little lower. These arcs probably are not perfect because, let's be honest, they're going to get a little bit shorter than this, but it's good enough. So I think about kind of the midpoint, kind of the beginning and the end, and kind of where I want the ball to go, and then just start slicing it up. The more frames I have, the slower it goes. The less frames I have, the quicker it goes. So I definitely want more frames kind of toward the top, but in this case I'm going to put a couple down here as well. So that'll give me kind of the arc and a little bit of hang time because I have a couple more layers, or excuse me, a couple more slices kind of up in there. Those will eventually become keyframes. I'm going to make another drawing layer, and this is going to be where my ball is going to go. Last time we were trying out with the whole kind of copy-paste idea. This time I'm just going to kind of freehand and just kind of make them each time. I'm going to use the shape tool, grab my little ellipse tool over there. So I'll just kind of get in here, and I'm just going to kind of freehand it, just like that. That should be good. And I'm going to skip 2, and we'll shoot on doubles here, or on 2s. Skip 2, make a new keyframe. Make sure your onion skinning's on, of course. And I can kind of tell here. So I've got a little problem. My background's there, but my path is not lasting. It's not going the entire length of my image. So first I'm going to make it into a keyframe so it's actually like manipulatable. That's a word. I'm just going to kind of drag it out here and drag it out, and bada bing bada boom. There. Now it kind of expands the entire length of my timeline. So okay. So back at it. So change my layers back to my little my ball here, and again every 2 frames I'm just going to make a new one, and I'll make a new keyframe, and I'll make another one, and you can see where the monotony starts to kick in. But it's going to look really cool when we're all done. So just like we were doing before with the ball going horizontally here, we're just going to have this ball kind of go away from us, and all I'm really doing is trying my best to kind of follow the path, and you're going to see I'm a little bit off on that path. That's okay. But also I'm thinking about, and again right now I'm just kind of freehanding it every time making a new keyframe, but you can see there that's kind of where I'm going. But notice how the ball gets a little bit smaller. Obviously with 1 point perspective, as something gets further away from me, it's going to get even smaller. So I want to kind of keep that in mind as I go along, and I'm kind of freehanding it. You could totally do copy paste and just literally shrink it down. That would work just as well. But there are obviously different types of animation. The whole copy paste idea we'll get into more would be more like a kind of cutout animation. Think like South Park or something, even though that's done on the computer. It looks like cutouts. So yeah, so now I'm going to keep in mind as we go along here, I've got my little squash and stretch as well. I want to make sure this looks as real as it possibly can be. So yeah, so this first layer here, I'm just going to squash it. I'm thinking about kind of stretching out those sides because I've got to deal with the volume. That second layer, second keyframe is going to be stretched. And just like we did with our last project here, I want to kind of arc it just by kind of clicking in the middle there. And kind of, there we go. Cool. Alright, and I'm going to do the same thing over here with our last panel. So that one there, he's going to get stretched just a little bit and kind of pull him. So now I kind of get that nice little arc, literally like we did for our last one. And yeah, so there you go. So that's pretty much my little arc kind of going in space. I'm just going to turn off the onion skinning, kind of switch my layers here for a second. And that way I'll just kind of scrub through and you can kind of see, blah, 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 there goes my ball and away from me. Right? That little squash really does help make it as three-dimensional, or I guess as realistic as it possibly can be. But that's kind of where we're going there. So yeah, okay. So we've got that, and I'll just kind of zoom out here for a second so you can see. I'll turn on my other layers, and there we go. Yep. So there's kind of everything. So now you can kind of see the ball we just made, along with the one I started off with, and both look pretty convincing. They look pretty real. So I made one arc, and now I'm just going to make multiple arcs, and that would give me my ball bouncing in 3 dimensions. And that's it. All right. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions or anything, let me know. But thanks. See ya.